A grumpy Scot with a pint in hand, ripping through films like a one-man band. Snarky cinema where the burns are hot, honest reviews you'll never forgot. Oh hey oh, aye, let the truth be told. No sugar here, it's biting and bold. With smirk and a scowl and a hearty laugh, the grumpy Scot is here to riff your craft. Remakes to sequels gone wrong, he'll tear them apart all video long. But if it's a gem, he'll tip his hat. Rare moments when praise comes from this cat. From cringe remakes to sequels gone wrong, he'll tear them apart all video long. But if it's a gem, he'll tip his hat. Rare moments when praise comes from this cat. Snark so sharp, it'll cut through steel. Honesty that you can taste and feel. No fluff, no fuss, it's the Scottish creed. For brutal truth, the world does plead. Oh hey oh, aye, let the truth be told. No sugar here, it's biting and bold. With smirk and a scowl and a hearty laugh, the grumpy Scot is here to riff your craft. So grab your popcorn and duck for cover. It's cinema chats with a twist to discover. Snarky Scot with reviews that sting, a brutally honest movie rating king.
Good evening and welcome to our Tuesday night review. We'll need a name for the Tuesday night review. You know, what do we call it? We should call it something. It's not
Tuesday films.
I like something with a bit of alliteration, but
Tuesday Snark.
Tuesday.
Snark.
What?
Views Day.
Views Day. Tuesday Views Day.
Yes.
Yes, maybe. Yes, something. Good evening, Julie. Good evening, Beats and Tapes. Good to see you guys. Right, so tonight we're going to look at A Bug's Life. If you're in the vertical chat, don't be frightened. You can say anything you like. I think you need to be a subscriber before you can actually chat. That's the only thing, but you don't need to wait for any length of time. As soon as you're subscribed, you can chat away. And as always, you can feel free to support us if you ever need to, because as you know, this channel's not monetized. Cheers. Right.
Cheers, Sergeant Grumpy.
Shall we get down to business? A Bug's Life, huh? It came out of left field, I must admit. But here we go. Right. So, Pixar's 1998 masterpiece, A Bug's Life. I rewatched it for what must be the... I think it's not working. Hold on. My clicker's not working.
His clicker's not working? Oh god, his heart's bad. Someone call the doctor. Clear!
Okay, so I've rewatched A Bug's Life for what must be the dozenth time, and I've got some thoughts that'll make you question whether Disney's been running a political science course disguised as children's entertainment. And now, before we dive into this animated ant fest, let me set the scene properly. This isn't just some wee bug movie. Oh no, what we've got here is nothing less than a full-scale remake of The Magnificent Seven. Except instead of gunslingers with questionable moral compasses, we've got insects with even more questionable anatomy. The parallels are so bloody obvious that I'm surprised Pixar didn't just call it The Magnificent Bugs and be done with it. The western that crawled. The score practically screams yee-haw. Every time our reluctant heroes swagger onto screen and I say yes, I said swagger because apparently even computer animated ants can manage more confidence than most of the live stream chat. Randy Newman's composed what sounds like Ennio Morricone had a fever dream about arthropods complete with harmonica flourishes that make you expect Clint Eastwood to come squinting through the tall grass any moment. Here's where it gets interesting. By interesting, I mean politically uncomfortable for anyone who spent 5 minutes thinking about how society actually works. This children's film, and I use that term loosely, serves up more hard truths about power structures than most political documentaries manage in 2 hours. Grasshoppers, governments, and the illusion of control. The grasshoppers, led by Kevin Spacey's Hopper, kind of hits differently now, doesn't it? Represent everything we love to hate about authoritarian leadership. They're basically a protection racket with wings. Nice colony you've got here. Shame if something happened to it. Sound familiar? It should. Because that's every government that's ever existed. Just with less exoskeleton and more paperwork. Here's the kicker though, and this is where Pixar either got accidentally profound or dangerously subversive. The grasshoppers are outnumbered roughly 1,000 to 1. Hopper himself spells it out. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. The moment the majority realises they don't actually need to comply, the whole system collapses faster than your faith in humanity during election season. Our magnificent circus bugs, are the perfect metaphor for outside agitators coming in to show the locals what they're capable of. Flicks, bless his optimistic thorax, represents that dangerous individual who asks, but why do we do it this way? The kind of question that keeps dictators awake at night and makes middle management break out in hives. The film's message is crystal clear. Those in power only maintain control as long as the masses believe they should. It's a numbers game, pure and simple. The grasshoppers know it, Hopper knows it, and eventually even the ants figure it out. The real question is whether the audience gets it, or if they're too distracted by the pretty colours and talking insects to notice they've just been served a primer on revolutionary theory. What's particularly striking about rewatching this in 2025 is how prescient it feels. Released in 1998, when the world felt relatively stable and nobody was arguing about whether water makes you wet, it predicted our current moment of questioning authority with uncomfortable accuracy. The film suggests that peaceful resistance works, but only when backed by the implicit threat of overwhelming numbers. A lesson that feels rather relevant to anyone who's been paying attention to global politics lately. And yes, before anyone mentions it in the chat, there is that brief moment where characters address each other's identities with unusual care for a children's film. Apparently even animated insects were ahead of the curve on some social issues. Talking about you, Francis. The real genius of A Bug's Life isn't in its animation or voice acting, though both are solid enough. It's in how it packages genuinely revolutionary ideas inside a family-friendly wrapper. The film argues that authority derives from consent, that the powerful need the powerless more than the reverse, and that social change requires both individual courage and collective action. There you have it, my beautifully cynical audience. Disney accidentally made a how-to guide for peaceful revolution, disguised it as a children's movie about insects, and somehow nobody noticed. Either that, or I've been staring at screens for too long and reading political theory into cartoon bugs. But given my background in dealing with actual power structures for 20-odd years in the Force, I'd say the grasshoppers are more realistic than most politicians, and considerably more honest about their intentions. Right, that's your dose of animated anachronism for this evening from me. Next week, we'll be discussing whether Finding Nemo is actually about the surveillance state. No, I'm just kidding. Right, carry on. What do you think, guys?
Very well. I'm going to hand it straight over to Sean because I know he's got some notes and a lot to say. So go ahead, Sean.
For once, I actually have like a little notes about like how I felt about this film, because most of the time I just kind of like went off like randomly, but this time I actually have some things.
Okay, go for it.
Well, as someone who's an artist, like who likes to draw art and also loves visuals, this is like a big nostalgia trip for me because I absolutely loved this film as a child. And like you said, the whole pretty color things, and that really does work with the sceneries and all the different like environmental locations, okay, in the film. And I think this looks flippin' stunning. And for me, I think the animation does hold up a bit in this modern time. Like, sure, it can be dated in some parts, but genuinely, it still looks very stunning. Like looking at like one of those perfect pictures that seem so like fantasy like in real life. And one of my favorite things about Pixar films is that they like to incorporate like little cameos and sometimes in some visual scenes. Like when Flick goes to the big city near that big trailer park, the big trailer and that infamous pizza van there, which has appeared in majority of Pixar films, is basically the Stan Lee of Pixar films. Because if you look in budget Pixar films, it is there. And the brilliant part is the part with the trailer park. This was their second film, but that trailer park scene actually comes back in Monsters Inc. like years later. So that it's cool to see that and how it links up to other Pixar films. It is honestly one of the brilliant things about it. Another thing I really loved about this film was sorry notes. See. Yeah, I really do like the characters. The characters are really memorable, and usually I struggle to remember names, and I'm trying to because before I watched this film, I was trying to what was some of their names again? Like I remember Heimlich, and I was like, yeah, but then I started to remember all the other ones, like Molt and Molt and all the other ones. It just I think the acting in this film is really done well, especially done by my favorite character. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but my favorite character is Hopper, who is by far one of the better Disney villains in my opinion. Because the problem with Disney, or the problem with Disney in general, especially what they were doing now, is sometimes they don't include a villain, or sometimes they have a really poorly written villain, or they do the whole twist villain thing, which is very flippin' annoying. It was good for some villains, but it's just overused now. Oh, who's the villain? Is it the overly nice guy, or is it the really sinister looking person? Oh no, it's the overly nice guy. Blah blah. And in some films, they pretty much mess up the whole script. So the hero's the villain, and the villain's the hero. So blah blah, all that shit. Sorry about that. But Hopper is one of those villains that he's really likable as a villain. You get what he's about. It's all about control for him. It's all about making sure that the lower classes stay in line.
He was the dictator, wasn't he?
Yes. Yeah. It basically the whole idealisms of dictatorship, and some religions, politics, all that stuff, making the masses fear you, even though they would have more power than you if it came up to a straight up fight. It is just one of those brilliance of evil villainy that I think is very lacking in some movies nowadays, especially not just Disney ones, but another ones. Sometimes it is back in the day when we had some generally good villains. But yeah, Hopper is just generally one of those better villains in the actual series. And another thing I really love about this film is actually the perspectives, because I was talking about the visuals in the beginning, is that you're seeing this sort of big, massive world from the eyes of an ant. Some things that look very insignificant to us if we were in those scenes. We would just look, oh, grass. But it's just this big, massive force for them. And that's what I like. It's all these different perspectives. It's something that seems so small, it's just so large and vast. And another point of this perspective is the bird. Because something that would seem harmless to us is flippin' scary in this film. Seeing that big. I'm not trying to swear. Just that big buzzard. It's massive, and those black eyes just look so soulless in a way. And oh my god. Especially that end scene with Hopper's death, that end scene with the chicks. I always thought that was kind of creepy, and also one of the darkest Disney villain deaths in history.
You've not seen Bambi then?
on Disney villain deaths.
Okay.
I seen a guy get hanged in the jungle, but still and still being ripped apart by little baby birds is still very dark, especially via the perspective. It's like this whole that one line from the Jurassic World film, the monster is as a relative term. Okay. To a canary, a cat is a monster. We're used to being the cat. So in this way, the bird is a monster. And that's what something else I love about this film is that's the perspective. And it does it so well. I hope I'm doing all right with this. It's the first time I'm doing like with notes.
Keep going, man.
All right. All right. What else do I have? Okay. Large or small, like blah, blah. Yeah. Another thing I love about this film is the just joyfulness. It's just one of those films that make you feel good. Because I feel like with some films today, sometimes they're too bleak and too dark at times. And some of the films we've seen, I generally do think that those are good films. Just some of them are just really so dark and bleak. It's good to have something that's a bit more lighthearted and a bit more comedic.
Do you not think this is quite dark and bleak though?
Yeah, in points it is, but it's also one of those films that has points where it makes you feel happy and stuff. And I would say my final thoughts, and this is about Pixar films in general, back in the old days, is that the bloopers were brilliant. Those when you get to the end credits and you have these bloopers where the characters are all acting out. That's they didn't need to do that back then. It was like an extra thing they did for fun. Animating all these behind the scenes cuts and those little clips. That is true artsmanship, and it's something that Pixar has not done in a while. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why some of the recent films haven't been doing that well. Just they kind of lack the heart. They lack the stunning visuals, and the pacing that the older ones had. So honestly, I think this film still holds up to this day, and I generally did enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it holds up very well, actually. Rewatching it is the kind of movie that you could watch anytime,
Yeah. All right, David, your turn.
And it works, as you said, it works on a couple of different levels. But David, yes, please, do go on.
Yeah, A Bug's Life was groundbreaking for its time, but as you chaps said, it still holds up as a great animation for both children and adults alike. So it's not a kids movie, Sean. Yes, it's a family film. It's a family film. It's a simple, easy to understand plot line of good versus evil and borrows from other classical tales. What Sergeant Grumpy said, the seven samurai or the Magnificent Seven. And even though it's aimed at children, adults will definitely get a kick out of it and observe the deeper parable meanings about individualism, standing up to be counted, even if it means going against the quote unquote the group or your family, how fear is used to manipulate the masses, the power of collective action, so collectivism, and of course the joy of community spirit and community involvement. That's good stuff too. All of these things that we still wrestle with on an individual level as a society. That thing that happened, in the last couple of years, folks. Yep, that thing there. So the voice acting is great. I completely agree with what you said, Sean. I thought that that Hopper was a great villain. And this was certainly at a time, not to precedent too much, when Kevin Spacey was maybe not
in the
so
ascendancy.
creepy.
In the ascendancy.
Yeah, exactly. But he wasn't so, shall I say, creepy. I'll just leave that there. I thought the adult gags were balanced and they were subtle. They weren't in your face too much. You just get a gag and it was and they just leave it there. So that was nicely done. And there's a lot of good stuff in A Bug's Life. And while it's not my usual cup of tea, like my usual go-to, like I've said before, folks, in previous reviews on Snarky Cinema, sometimes it's just nice to sit back, relax, engage with your inner child, and be entertained. So what can I say? I haven't seen A Bug's Life in a long time, so it was just nice to sit back for about an hour and a half, and just enjoy something a bit more lighthearted. So if you've never seen A Bug's Life, where have you been? Go and watch it by yourself, or indeed with your family. If you have children to watch it with, they're gonna love it. It's an absolute crime if you have not shown them A Bug's Life yet. So go and see it, folks.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's a very good movie, actually. I think it works on so many different levels, and like I said, it really is like a revolutionary primer. You know, it's incredible. And when you look at what it tells you about how to deal with governments, and let's face it, you know, peaceful protest works 53% of the time. Violent protest only works 26%. So there's a starter from 10. Now, one thing I was wanting to touch on before we go any further is what was it? It was Francis and these the Francis problem. Yeah, I did a little bit on this. The character Francis, a male ladybug, is constantly misgendered throughout the film as a source of comedy. Right?
How dare you?
So yeah, and he's always wanting to beat people up because of it. Francis has a distinctly feminine visual traits: eyelashes, pinkish cheeks, lips, a small mole under his lip. It looks even as though he's wearing makeup, but he speaks with a deep masculine voice provided by Dennis Leary. So the film treats his frustration with being called female as humour rather than addressing any serious issues about gender identity, and I think that's absolutely fine, right? At this time and when it was. When other bugs call him lady or assume he's female, his angry responses are like, "Who you calling lady?" are played for laughs, and that's great.
Yeah.
But this inclusion wasn't about progressive representation, which is well before Disney started getting into it. It was about exploiting gender confusion for cheap comedy, right? And I still think that's great because it's comedy. It wasn't about. It wasn't really about. These are critics' notes, but it wasn't really about exploiting gender confusion. It was just having a freaking laugh, and that's something. Yeah. I think it's something that we're losing in this day and age. And by the film's end, Francis accepts. Here's the bit that really gets me though. By the film's end, Francis accepts being called Den Mother by the group of young ants, which critics interpret as either character growth or, problematically, giving in to the misgendering and lost his sense of identity. Oh Jesus. My freaking God. What do you make of that?
It was. I think it was more about Francis kind of calming down or being softened like a bit more, because for such a pixie-sized like ladybird, he had a lot of attitude, a lot of gumption. Worse. Like he was very testy. Like go ahead.
Oh God.
Multiple academic analysis conclude that this portrayal was harmful because it correlates being mistaken for a woman as something that is funny, reinforcing the negativity associated with being perceived as a girl, and does not take into account trans individuals for whom misgendering is a daily reality and a struggle. Now, that statement itself may well be valid, right? But are you not reading too much into something that was written and performed and published in 1998? That's comedy. Nearly 30. Sorry, it's nearly 30 years ago.
Oh, flipping!
You think about it, another 2 years, that'll be 30 years, won't it? Oh. Yeah, well.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm gonna be 30 soon.
It's funny. It's funny with Francis because the visual of Francis, like every time there was like a kind of a close up, I was thinking, did they model Francis the ladybird on like
Betty
Liza
Boop.
Minnelli from Cabaret or something like that?
I thought Betty Boop.
Betty Boop. There were different kind of fractals that you could kind of spot, like with Francis. But I completely agree with what you're saying, John. It's for a laugh, folks. There's no need to go off and get a PhD in whatever, and then 30 years later, like have this like thesis on bloody like Francis from A Bug's Life. Like, come on, folks.
I mean, it goes on. It goes on. So Disney. So Disney didn't bother addressing misgendering. They exploited it for comedy in what critics now recognise as a deeply problematic way that taught children humorous misgendering and discrimination was acceptable.
No, it children would not remember that.
I know. People are reading way too much into way too little, you know? Imagine if they were confronted with something like Benny Hill or Bless This House or what was the one with the couple, the black couple and the white couple stayed next door to each other, and they used incredibly derogatory terms for each other, and yeah, it was fine. You know, that's what it was. It was fine.
It's funny, that sort of analyses, that's conducted like up to 30 years on from a movie that was just so much more innocent, and children who viewed it then, like I really do not think they will be coming back, in their 30s now saying, yeah, I was really offended by that. Actually, yeah, they're really spot on with what they're saying in that analysis. What absolute tosh.
That is that is complete and utter BS. Like, I can understand people like maybe writing a thesis, but based on like Hopper, stuff like in his like the whole dictatorship and all that stuff, because that makes
Flick
sense.
maybe,
and that's interesting. But to talk about like, oh, Francis and the whole misgendering thing was offensive, like it's a flippin' joke. He's a ladybug who's a boy. Like, god damn it! Like, it's like how Slim was like the constant stick jokes, like swish swish, wang wang, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, come on, it's comedy.
Yeah.
And then you have
slapstick, yeah.
And then you have Heimlich, who's a big German caterpillar.
Yeah,
Austrian,
like Austrian, yeah, like so, like Heimlich was, yeah. Don't say that, don't. It's like mixing up Kiwis and Aussies, like to a degree, or dare I say, Irish and English.
But Scottish and English. Oof.
Yeah, Heimlich was great. It was great. Like comic relief, like for children and for adults, had some really great one-liners. So yeah, Heimlich was kind of like the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory version of Augustus Gloop in a way. Like he was really fun, really enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah, it also kind of be sad because I remember recently that his voice actor passed away some time ago. See if I can find out who it was. His name was
Joe Rumpft. His name was.
Oh yeah. It's just really sad because like he and a few other actors in this film voiced multiple characters throughout Pixar films, and it's just really sad to think about, like them passing away. It's like
his voice will live on.
Yes, it will.
It's evergreen. Like that's interesting, Sean. So take me through this. So a lot of like Dave Foley, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Hayden Panettiere, like so did they go on to like voice act in other Pixar productions, or just a few of them?
Let's check out. Okay, what was the first one you said?
Robert Kind was the guy out of Spin City, wasn't he?
Oh, Malt. Yeah, I remember him voicing another Pixar film, Inside Out. Bing Bong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all I know. Like, because most of these guys on the list, are people I'm not too familiar with when it comes to voice acting. Because
Julia Louis-Dreyfus, she was at Seinfeld, wasn't she?
That is correct. Yeah. Very well known.
The one who voiced the Black Widow, Rosie, Bonnie Hunt. She was the mother in Beethoven.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And another one this one I definitely recognize is Brad Garnett. Who voiced Dim, the rhinoceros beetle. And we all know him from Everybody Loves Raymond. The guy with a really deep voice.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of other people like Dennis Leary voiced Francis, who also
Yeah.
and this is not another Pixar film. This is a completely different like company. He voiced Diego in Ice Age. If you remember those films.
Yeah, I remember Ice Age. Yeah, Dennis Leary, of course, a great stand-up comedian as well. Very, very well known, very out there. So they'd some really great actors, voice actors, and I think it was really well voice cast. Actually, they really suited their the characters with Dave Foley as Flick, and then Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Princess Atta, Kevin Spacey as Hopper. I think they all played great roles.
Yeah, they definitely like.
Yeah.
Right, I'm putting the poll up. What you got, David? What you got?
Oh, we're already going to there.
No,
Okay.
well, I thought I'd get it up early, so we're not. So
Okay.
I don't want to lose anyone. I want to get as many people available to vote as possible.
Okay, interesting.
We'll
Yeah,
reveal it at like 10. Okay.
Cool. I'm going to go with a film that an updated version of a very, very old film that came out last year, and that will be Nosferatu.
Ooh.
Nosferatu from 2024, because I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't either. Is that so? It's the 2024 version you're wanting us to watch?
Yeah, this is the modern incarnation of.
Sounds like worried.
Don't worry, Sean. You'll be fine.
And
If it gets picked.
No.
And I'm looking
Not
at.
darkness.
What's it called? What's his name? John Carpenter movie, right?
Right.
Big Trouble in Little China.
Good choice.
So we'll see.
Is it like an
Something
action film?
Sorry?
Is it like an action film?
Yeah.
Comedy action.
Yeah, have you not seen it?
No.
Kurt Russell.
Everyone go with that one. Yeah, I've only seen
Right.
the only time I've actually seen Nosferatu was in that SpongeBob episode. I think that's literally like one of the major reasons people know about him. You know, and the actual directors of the current film have stated that.
Yeah, I'm very curious about the. I've heard some mixed reviews of the updated Nosferatu. Haven't seen it yet, so yeah, I'll be interested to. I'm going to check it out regardless of what is picked. Actually,
Yeah, I think I will too. And maybe I'll even drop a little review in. At the moment, we have Mickey 17, which I viewed. I also have a review of The Accountant 2, which I watched the other night. I don't know. I think it's because of the channel and trying to build it that I've been watching so many movies. So I've been on to the interwebs and watching as much as I can. I've also done Andor 1, Season 1. Andor Season 2 isn't out yet. Or, no, it is out, but my review isn't out yet, but that's in scripting. And Rogue One is actually written. That's ready to be recorded. Because I'm going through Star Wars in order of the movies. But including Andor, because I'll be honest, it's just brilliant.
When you say order, do you mean... When you say order, do you mean like chronologically in the universe, or like when they were released?
Chronologically in the universe.
All right.
So I started with the Phantom Menace, and it does make watching A New Hope a bit difficult because I've watched that as well recently. It is an awkward family reunion, as they say, and you've got to be thinking, oh my God, dude, you just tortured your daughter.
So John, Sergeant Grumpy, going back to your analysis, you reckon that A Bug's Life, it was very cleverly concocted, not only to be portrayed as a family film, but also as a kind of a revolutionary playbook. That's what you were kind of getting at?
Yeah, well, I kind of think there's a little bit of that, isn't it? And you've got
definitely.
You've got to think that because of the way it's been portrayed and the way it's come out, and it's like, did they know something was going to be happening, or is it just coincidence? Because that happens a lot in movies, doesn't it? You know, really, a movie will come out, and then 3 or 4 years later, it'll have told you something that happened in 3 or 4 years' time, but you know, you never know if that's just the mood of the times and how it was expressed, and then it just happened that society went down that route.
Yeah, I think it was very cleverly done. I said it, in the chat, in the troll room. The offering of the food towards the
Tax,
grasshoppers. That was the tax. Yeah, of course. And the ant colony, the bug colony, they're definitely you can identify them with with human beings, like with us to a degree, and kind of fear of authority and how fear is manipulated, it's weaponized, and all of these things. So it was really well done. It was very relatable.
Yeah. The grasshoppers are in effect government, and they're enforcers.
Yeah.
The mad grasshopper was obviously the police. He would he would set on the people, to keep them in line. So I think it was very much an allegory for.
I still think it's funny that
society.
I still think it's kind of funny that they named that a really crazy grasshopper Thumper.
Thumper, yeah, the Bruiser,
yeah.
The debt collector, or somebody who's going to be knocking on your door.
A mad dog.
Yeah, I'm here to collect the money or the food, or you could relate it to a TV license inspector or something like that. Stick whatever you want on it, but it was very, very relatable.
Yeah. So I think people sometimes read too much into movies, but I think this movie had enough in it that you could read that in quite obviously. So I'm trying to think back at other cartoons, and they're maybe not quite as political as this one, because this is quite a political movie. If you think back to Snow White, doesn't say that much about. It doesn't say that much about life and the parables of modern living. A princess, and she's having a problem with her step family, but other than that, it's not really relatable. You don't normally get taken in by 7 dwarfs.
It's a bit more fantasy than reality in some aspects.
Bambi.
Hell, there are even people who debate the ending.
Yeah, well, whatever. But Bambi's kind of maybe a little bit heading down the ecological route before that was a popular choice. Certainly a movie I watched very, very long time ago. Was it The Emerald Forest? You ever seen that? That was really singing the ecological praises. That movie. It made quite a lasting impression on me. I wanted to rush out and join Greenpeace. It was quite. It was. There's movies out there that do make big impressions on you, especially when you're very young.
Yeah,
I better check out when The Emerald Forest was. I probably wasn't that young.
I would say another Pixar film that kind of does that is The Incredibles, and that one has some things that really hit home.
Really?
What
basically,
did you get from The Incredibles?
Basically, how society prefers mediocrity. Everyone to be how everyone is the same. No one is special. That sort of thing.
We kind of had that in this film, in the animation of A Bug's Life as well. It's all very kind of uniform and kind of bland until there's this kind of crisis, and then kind of the ant colony kind of rediscover themselves. They kind of find themselves, and kind of Flick represents the epitome of individualism. He has this reversal of fortune. He's kind of meek, and he's vulnerable. He won't kind of stand up to authority, but in the end he took that big risk, and he did, and he almost paid a very heavy price for it. And the community and their society, they looked at that and they were like, wow, and it won him a lot of favor in the end for demonstrating his bravery rather than his cowardice.
I just realised something about The Emerald Forest and that I didn't realise at the time, because I know it was directed by John Boorman, but I didn't realise Charlie Boorman was in it. Charlie Boorman was the boy. Do you know Charlie Boorman? No, him that went around the world with Ewan McGregor on the motorbike.
Oh, that name
Yeah.
rang a bell.
So,
Yeah.
so you're saying the person who directed it was also in it?
No, the person who directed it, his son was in it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, when you look at him
Charlie
now,
Wogan.
you wouldn't recognise him at all, you know. But yeah, it was pretty good. In 1985, it was from a white guy gets taken in by a South American tribe, and loggers are loggers are tearing down the Amazon and obviously affecting the village. So it was quite an interesting movie.
You connected with your inner Greta Thunberg.
Yeah, my
time.
inner Greta.
Like-
Yeah, I was.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, at that time in the 80s, there was a lot going on in the world that you didn't necessarily sit well with you if you looked at what was happening, because you come out of the 70s where everybody was kind of happy and, well, not happy, but there was a big problem about oil in the late 70s, and then you worried about peak oil because you were told that oil was going to run out by the year 2000, and that would be it. We'd descend into the complete and utter anarchy, and we'd be fighting each other for food because we wouldn't be able to make any because we wouldn't have any oil. But still got oil, still got loads of oil, in fact. But yeah, it was quite interesting. There was so many other things going on because you had the Rainbow Warrior, you had Greenpeace, you had the whaling, clubbing seals, acid rain,
the hole in the ozone layer.
Yeah, I mean, everything. The CFC's campaign. You had all these things all piling up, and at that point, I wasn't looking at it critically. I wasn't examining it for what it might be representing, rather than basically I was just taking it at face value. So I was believing all the science and not really researching it, and it was a lot harder to research because you had to go to the library, or you had to go to university libraries and find the right books and the right theses to obviously go through these things. But it kept me going to. I mean, I don't think I never really dropped out of education, because I ended up, and even while I was in the police, I went to the. I did a couple of extra hires, even though I didn't need to, because I already left school with 6. So I'd gone to night school while I was waiting to get into the Open University. Then I went into the Open University, got a degree in kind of economics and sociology, and then after that, I decided I wanted to do coming towards the end of my time in the police, because I'd injured myself. I knew I was going to have to be looking for something else to do, so I went to university part-time in the evening and did my master's in IT. So I ended up with that as well, and then went into IT, but always working. And I started working in the uni. I was working in the uni for two or 3 years. So when you're working in an academic environment, you're always learning. So I quite enjoyed it. And then after that, I was basically contracting as an IT professional, went into project management, did all the education around that, Prince 2 and all that kind of stuff. So I never really stopped learning, and now, although I'm not formally learning, I'm probably learning more than I've ever learned at any point in time, because the amount of stuff
We are all
I'm going
students of
through.
life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Life teaches us so many things.
Life school.
So yeah.
Doesn't stop, doesn't end.
Sorry, potted history of me.
Speaking of another John, John Lasseter, the director of this film, he actually did a voice cameo in this film. He was the mosquito.
Oh, really?
And that's actually, and that's actually something I do like, is that he did a self-insert, but it wasn't like, he just did a little voice. It wasn't like, some directors where they just insert themselves in the entire film.
They were playing darts with the mosquitoes, was it? At the bar?
I think it was the guy who drank the blood. Hey, Bloody Mary, positive.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, yeah, that was clever. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was really enjoyable. I really do like it when some directors get that creative and insert them, do little voice roles in that.
Yeah, that's
I
nice.
did like the little touch. I did like the little touch about being brought down to the not microscopic level, but the miniature level with the surface tension of water.
Oh yeah,
Getting
that,
stuck inside water balls and things. That was quite cool. I
oh
quite
yeah,
liked that.
those are really good. And them just holding like little drops of water or other liquids to drink. That is pretty. I thought that was pretty good.
So going back to that film that you saw, directed by, was it The Emerald Forest, directed by
John
John
Boorman.
Boorman?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think then, with A Bug's Life, if we kind of take it up a notch, that there is like an ecological kind of theme in this film as well, about the intelligence of kind of like life under our feet, and
No, I
the
didn't get
bugs
that
that
at
are
all.
out there, or how important they are to us?
It
I
didn't really
didn't
have
get that.
message.
I didn't get that at
No.
all.
I
But
didn't really see
maybe
that sort of message in the film. I do know that ants are very intelligent, and I think they're one of the few other animals besides us that have like a something cultural
society hierarchy.
not that like growing their own food sort of thing. They did that. They did that.
Sustainability, or
Farming.
I can't remember what the word was, but some ants are capable of like having their own like sort of crops or mushrooms. Like they grow them, to later eat and consume.
That's a good point, Sean. I'm glad you mentioned that because I forgot about it. Did you see when they were bringing the plane in? Not the plane, the bird. When they were bringing the bird into the hangar, did you see the mushrooms they were using?
Yeah.
Did you?
Oh yes, now I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but did you see what type of mushrooms they were using?
And what type are they?
Magic mushrooms. Psilocybin
Were they
mushrooms.
really?
Yeah.
Oh.
They were glowing blue.
Psilocybins.
Yeah, they were glowing blue.
Aha.
Yeah.
So nicely picked up, sir.
There's a little bit of jigger. Well, there always has in these things. They sneak things in that you
like
don't,
a more adult humor.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think that was one of the jokes in like the circus thing when where the fly was saying to Francis, "Hey, baby, want to pollinate or something like that?" Want to pollinate with a real insect or something like that. That's a bit of an adult joke. There.
Yeah, P.T. Flea was great. Actually, there were great moments with P.T. Flea at the circus. So the guy who voice acted that role, John Ratzenberger as P.T. Flea, was very good.
Was that
was
Cliff?
really, really good.
Was that Cliff from Cheers? John Ratzenberger.
Really?
I don't know. Check, but
and Tuck and Roll as well. Couldn't really understand what people were saying. They kind of had their own native language going on between them, and would just kind of like agree with each other all the time, or with the general consensus of what was going on. And who else? Yeah, Jonathan Harris, Manny, a British voice artist. I'm not too sure.
Dr. Smith.
But he was the praying mantis character.
Dr. Smith.
Oh yeah, he's also. I think he also
from Lost in Space. From the black and white version of Lost in Space, Jonathan Harris.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Wow. That was Dr. Smith.
Yeah, the John Ranif guy wasn't. No, that was who was
John Ratzenberger.
Ratzenberger.
P.T. Flea.
Yeah, that's Cliff. That's Cliff from Cheers.
Cliff from Cheers. Okay.
Yeah, he's also done some other voice work as well for Pixar. He was Piggy Bank in Toy Story. Let's see what else. He was the Abominable Snowman in Monsters Inc. He was the big truck. I can't remember the name. Mac or something in Cars. He was the waiter in Ratatouille. One of the fat people in WALL-E.
So he's had a lot of gigs since this
especially
animation.
Especially in
Pixar. Right.
So that guy Jonathan Harris wasn't English. He was from New York.
Was he?
Yeah, he was a Russian Jewish immigrant, or his family was. His father worked in the garment industry, and he began working in a pharmacy at the age of 12.
Mm-hmm.
What was Queely? What was the guy who's Robert and Everyone Loves Raymond? What was his name again?
Oh, I don't know his name.
I just looked. See if he did any other Pixar roles, and he's done quite a few. He was the dead chef in Ratatouille. He's the pufferfish in Finding Nemo. Don't know that one. He voiced Eeyore in Wreck-It Ralph 2. That's when the one they go to the internet.
I'm having to bow to your superior knowledge here. I don't know much of these people. Oh, Hayden Panettiere was Dot. So she was.
Yeah.
Do you remember Heroes?
That name struck me. I'm like, Dot was she was so young.
remember
she was something like
yeah. So Heroes, the superhero type TV series. She was.
That was out some years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. She was a girl that she used to break her arms or whatever, and then would heal almost instantly.
Hayden Panettiere, yeah, that voice, that name rings a bell. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've come across her before. Yeah,
I'm just looking up some of the roles she did, and I'm looking up some of the roles she did, and I don't know most of them, but I recognize one. Do you remember that film that I absolutely loved? The one that was very funny for me, Hoodwinked.
No, sorry.
Oh, well, she voiced Red Riding Hood in that.
Okay.
It's one of those lesser known it's one of those lesser known movies. It was funny for its time. The sequel was kind of pish, honestly, but it was a funny film.
And tell me this and tell me true. Dave Foley as Flick was great. Now, I'm not sure if I've come across Dave Foley. Maybe I have. Can any of you chaps enlighten me to Dave Foley as Flick? What else has he done?
I don't know any TV shows he's done, but I don't know like any other movies or TV shows. But there is one show I do know that he was in, because like when I was thinking about it, I just kind of like went like, oh my god, he's that guy. He was basically the sidekick of the main guy from the show called Dan's Versus. It was a funny show about a guy who always claimed revenge against something, New Mexico, werewolves and everything, and he was just basically the friend / psychic, which just always went along with it. That's all. I think that's the only thing I can really think of. Let me see if I could jog any other memories of what he's been in.
There is nothing he's been in that I have any information on personally. Well, he was in Monsters University as the voice of Terry.
I'm trying to remember that one. Oh,
I don't know. No, nothing. He's done a lot of voice acting, I think.
Hang on, let me check. Terry, which one's Terry? Oh, it's one of the guys with two heads. Oh, I did not get that one.
Yeah, he's done a lot of voice acting. He's got the face for it, certainly.
Oh Jesus!
Anyway, he was in the Stargate Atlantis. One episode.
Fake suitable for radio and for general voice acting.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just done like one episode here and there with stuff. Just an extra, basically, but he's done a lot. He then went in and done a lot of voice acting, and that's obviously been his forte. Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Which voice actor was that?
I don't know. I'm not going to dig into it.
No, like I thought you were saying who
this
who
guy
was the voice
Dave
actor?
Foley.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that show. I've seen other Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle show.
I didn't realize they made a Bug's Life too.
Wait, what? They never did.
Well, Bug's Life 2 created 3 years. No, this must be nonsense.
I'm quite surprised they haven't followed on from the original. Maybe it's something that they could do in the future.
Yeah, but it's not kind of listed as a movie. I think it's like one of these fan fiction things that's been written down.
Oh god! Like I'm looking at something and it looks like it looks like made by AI art. Oh god!
Yeah. It may not ever come out. It could have just been something where they're like, no, this is as good as we're going to get it, and it's evergreen. Let's just leave it the way it is.
Funny enough,
it's not a bad thing.
It's actually funny because, remember how I was talking about the bloopers in some Pixar films? There's literally a blooper in Toy Story 2 where it has Flick and Heimlich going like, "Yes, we finally did it. We got like Bug's Life 2." and the other one was like, "Oh, it's not actually Bug's Life 2," and just Buzz just goes through the bushes, just like because it was like a scene from Toy Story 2. That was the funny blooper bit. So they made that kind of joke back then.
Guess you had to be there.
Yeah, maybe watch Toy Story 2. You'll get.
Sorry.
Let me fix that. But yeah, like it's generally one of those films that a lot of people would actually love to have a sequel for, but then again, like sometimes some sequels work, sometimes they don't. Like some people are not a fan of like The Incredibles 2. They thought the first one was all they needed. Other people liked it, so it's a bit 50-50 on that.
Yeah, I think a lot of these things, the sequels are always a bit crap. Not many movies can pull off a sequel and it be better than the original.
I mean, Toy Story 2 I thought it was a fine sequel. It was all right, I wasn't a big fan of Toy Story 3. I'm not seeing the other ones. I hear they're making Toy Story 5. Oh God.
Oh, well, anything else, David, that you want to bring up about this?
I guess the last thing to put it to you chaps is what was your favourite moment or moments of A Bug's Life? Do you have any in particular which stood out or which humoured you the most?
For me, I think it was definitely the scene at the desert. Seeing the grasshoppers just chilling, and then Molt being manipulated by others, and only to go to bother Hopper, who was trying to get a massage. By the way, if you looked closely, you'll see that he was actually getting a massage he was lying on top of a bullet. Meaning and they were in a hat. So I mean, someone like.
Something I didn't pick up on.
Yeah,
no, not necessarily.
The hat had a hole in it.
Did it? Well, somebody shot a hat. Back to the Western theme again. And that's what got me, because when you actually, if you go back and listen, even just the start of it, right? The music is so like it is so like A Magnificent Seven or any other Western, it's got that range about it. There's parts when you really do feel that Clint Eastwood could be coming around the corner.
Yeah.
What else? The best scene I thought was when the bird's tail caught fire.
Oh yeah.
Because that then exposed the whole charade and made the whole thing then have to kick into gear, where all the ants would stand up against.
Yeah, I definitely think that's definitely one of my favorite scenes as well.
Where the whole thing about the Queen getting squished and all that came out, and then the ants had to make a stand and did so. Yeah,
the part of that I really did like was the sort of intimidation Hopper had, as the sort of like the ruse was exposed, and he was like, whose idea was this? And then Flick stood up and he was like, and then Thumper just like went pounding on him, and just like, and that was honestly very enjoyable for a scene for a villain. And then it was the part where Flick started talking about like how the ants, work year after year, and how the grasshoppers are the ones who need them. And you see Hopper's realization was like, oh no. And he didn't even have to say anything there. Just his eyes and the way they animate him, he realized, oh no, it's out. And they're starting to question. So I really did like that scene as well. And, and the whole leading up to the, ants rebelling, and that was very fun. It was a good scene. What about you, David? What was your favorite scene?
I really liked the first circus scene, where we get introduced to the characters, and P.T. Flea was just trying to control the chaos and reinvent the act. So I thought that was really funny, and some great one-liners, because there was only a couple of audience members. You had the house flies, or like the blue bottles that were there. They'd be like, yeah, I got 24 hours to live. Might as well enjoy myself. Things like that. It was that was quite funny. And then I think P.T. Flea had the whole thing with with the matchbox, and that went crazy. I thought that was really fun, actually. It was a really good introduction to the other characters.
And that foreshadowed the ending scene that we were just talking about, with the matchbox and the fire again.
Yeah, exactly.
And
No.
you got to admire P.T. Fleet, because when he actually did think that it was actually a real bird, he just went like all crazy and just like try to burn an actual bird in his mind. That. So you got to admire him for that.
Yeah. He may have been a little flea, but he had huge balls. Right, what's your verdict then? How many out of 10?
Sean, go for it.
It's really tough because I'm trying to be fair and not trying to let my nostalgia hold over me. I would maybe give it like, I think possibly a 10.
Wow.
Because
Yeah.
I it's just really hard for me to think of something that I didn't like about the film. And I know it's kind of I'm generally trying to see like if there's anything like I could be negative about, but it's just really hard trying to think of something proper. I think maybe it's partially due to nostalgia, so maybe I can get down to like maybe 9.
Well,
But
whatever you're comfortable with.
honestly, yeah, like I think around that area, so 9 to 10, something like that.
Okay. David?
I give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Again,
good.
it's it's not my it initially wasn't my usual go-to or like
Yeah.
cup of tea, but I got into it. It was an hour and a half. I enjoyed it. There was some great stuff that popped out of it, which we spoken about this evening, and yeah, solid 8 out of 10.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go with the 8. I think the extra things in it, especially when I turned it on and the first thing I'm going, this is the Magnificent Seven. And I'm like, why did I not see this the first time I watched it? Or, this is the Magnificent. It's like, and I'm even counting the bugs and going, this is the Magnificent Seven. But yeah, I think
how many bugs were there?
these
Right.
little things, have inched it up in my estimation. I would probably have gone for a 6 without those things, but between that and the whole, government society type thing, I'd be with you on an 8. Yeah.
And nowadays, there are forces out there that want us to eat the bugs.
Yeah,
from
there
A Bug's
are.
Life.
Yeah. Eat the
Yes.
bugs.
Eat the bugs. They are nice and juicy.
What's up, Sean?
I'm trying to count the bugs. Like you said, it was like Magnificent 7, like not including Flake. If you just count the circus bugs, I think that's like 9.
Well,
Or 8 if you just count, or 8 if you count the roly polies as 1.
well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm getting 7 because I'm not counting PT.
Yeah, like so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so say probably. I'd probably count it as 7. Yeah.
Heimlich the caterpillar,
1, 2,
Francis
3,
ladybug,
4, 5,
stick
6,
bug,
7,
rhinoceros beetle,
8.
spider.
Okay, yeah, it's still more or less the Magnificent 7. But yeah, there we go. So there we go. The poll has ended, or I'm going to end the poll. Unfortunately, no one on the vertical stream voted, but hey, you maybe come again if you enjoyed this at all. If you didn't, why are you even still here? Big Trouble in Little China was 75%. Nosferatu 25%. But as you say, I think I'll give it a watch over the weekend, David, and we can have a chat about it in the green room next week. But yeah, Big Trouble in Little China, it is for next Tuesday, guys. 75%. John Carpenter, I think you'll enjoy it, Sean. It's a bit different. It's it's not an usual wheelhouse either for John Carpenter, I would say. Kurt Russell's in it, Kim Cattrall. Who else? A reasonable cast.
We'll just have to wait and find out next week.
Have you seen it?
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
It'll be a first for me.
Yeah, well, I think you'll enjoy it. Right, okay, chaps. Right. You people out there, thank you very much for coming along. Hope you've enjoyed it.
It's been great for me.
And it's been great for me.
It's been great for me.
I'm just, I hope everyone went okay on this stream. I think it has, but we'll check it out. And we'll probably be back here next Tuesday because I think the movie reviews sit better on the movie review channel. Yeah. So there we go. Thank you, Julie. And it's been great for you.
Oh yeah.